often think about why evil seems to get a free pass in this realm. Kind of heavy, of course, but how is it that the corporatocracy, the technocracy, the parasite class, predator class, whatever you want to call it, the spiritual adversary, perhaps, is a better general phrase for it. How does it always get a free pass, or does it only seem to be so based on my perspective? Because a lot of negativity, I guess you could call it, and pain, suffering, strife, endless conflict, and division, endless infighting, and all these systems that seem to be in place only to keep us fighting amongst ourselves instead of going inside to process and deal with that shadow stuff, those layers that we adapt throughout our life and adopt based on our environments and exposures and culture, social engineering, and all the rest of it. What's the purpose of all that? What's the point of it? I know a lot would probably argue that this place, this realm, this Earth school is just that. It's a place to grow and evolve and all the rest of that, but I don't accept that, and I've written about this and explored the idea many times over the last 10, 15, 20 years. That's overly simplistic, and it seems masochistic even. We live in a place of such contrast. It can be and is so beautiful and remarkable and stunning. And so are its inhabitants, from everything across the realm of flora and fauna all the way up to humanity and the human animal. And then, of course, it can also be expressed in the far opposite extreme in brutality, violence, Satanism, and all the other religious underpinnings that can be used to justify all manner of gore and violence and mass murder and wanton destruction of ecology and ecosystems and genocide, influencing people to suicide themselves. We have menticide, democide, with governments routinely wiping out segments of society. And then, of course, historical revisionism to erase such things from collective memory, and then rewriting the stories to perpetuate a certain heroism or myth and lore of those who came before us, and the absolute nonsense that is even recent history of the last century, the flat-out lies about the world wars and endless wars, perpetual wars, and of course everything in between, given your geography and where you may have been born in this life. Strange as it may seem, I would suppose that there are those who would argue the opposite of my initial question is, why does good just get a free pass? Why do we have to align to what is righteous and just and liberating and unifying, harmonizing, all these things that we can attribute to the positive end of the spectrum? One can't exist without the other. This is clear. We live in a realm of apparent polarity. And so the more extreme you can go to the good, if there's such a thing, the more extreme you can go to the evil. Why does evil get a free pass? Why is there so much suffering and pain and strife? Why do we constantly have to be vigilant, on guard, honing our skills of discernment, intuition, empathy? Why do we get exploited through our imagination and sensory perceptions? Why are they always weaponized against us? Where it's by default, the opposite. By default, we're born into this world free and clear of all these impositions. But even in the womb, we of course can adopt to trauma that's happening to our mother. Long before we're ever exposed to artificial lights or the sunlight, we're already taking on the imprints and the ideas and programs of mom and dad and the environment that they are experiencing and tolerating and accommodating and compromising to and with and for. So there's no chance of coming into this realm free of any impositions. And there are probably the extreme minority who can grow up completely dissociated from all things modernity would offer. You can reference stories such as the ringing theaters of Russia, and if that has any sort of factual basis, a child that's born completely free of modern impositions and programming and structures, what would they be capable of? I mean, if you read that story, you see that the child that is born is far advanced and highly intelligent, having never had access to, written word and the like, but somehow has access to all of the information, all of human knowledge, gleaned all manner of natural-based wisdom from their surroundings, knowing how to communicate with the animals and understanding the seasons and how to survive in what some would consider extreme natural circumstances. We in the West would haven't a clue how to accommodate that sort of lifestyle. We can only read about it and just marvel at those who grow through these extreme circumstances. And yet, they would look at our lives and marvel that we still function and that we are resilient, resistant, and find a way to not necessarily overcome, but adapt to it, because we're endlessly adaptable inside and out. We have such remarkable capabilities that are completely autonomic, unconscious. The body's intelligence is ignored. So why does evil get a free pass? I don't think it does. It only seems that way. I mean, what we focus on obviously gets more energy from us. It steals our gaze and we empower it. And then we, of course, are magnetized to seeing more of the same. It's like when you see a blue car and fixate on that, suddenly there's blue cars everywhere. How is that even possible? It's because we're simply looking for that. Or if you see numbers repeating patterns, you start to see patterns, then what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just your focus that gives it a little more weight momentarily. And if you need such things to derive meaning from, then you're deferring your power of discernment and comprehension to these artifacts rather than what you can summon from within. We are trained to defer our agency and authority to the external, the extrinsic. And we wonder how learned helplessness is so prolific in our era. Why depression and self-hatred and isolation and all the rest of it that contributes to our atomization as a society and a culture. Why that is on a rise and even marketed as a positive trait of modern society. This false idea of hyper-individualism, when just the opposite has always been true, having, a strong support network or community to relate to and to speak about these things in depth, in person, face to face, sharing the same space and time and energy. Everything's been translated to the two-dimensional, to the screens, to the impersonal, and to the performative even. So yeah, evil doesn't get a free pass, but our perception of it and these perspectives of looking through the filters of systems thinking and all of these grandiose ideas, trying to think of a, quote unquote, global system of problems and challenges and issues. The media that manipulates and controls these narratives makes us lean into the fact that these supposed things are massive problems that require multinational efforts and extensive geopolitical maneuvering, lest we usher in our own destruction, when it's these same forces that are continually ushering in our own destruction. Problem, reaction, solution kind of thing. But that's the manipulative nature of it, and that's the distortion of reality, because in reality, all you can really have any sort of effect on is what's in your own backyard, in your own house, in your own room, in your own mind, your own heart, your own spirit. But they keep drawing that out and externalizing these things, projecting our internal needs and wants and desires onto the world stage, as if we could ever possibly do anything to affect any fundamental sort of difference in that scale. And that's part of the lie, the distortion, the imposition of externalizing that authority and agency, autonomy. How dare you think about your own happiness and fulfillment when the world is going to shit? How dare you? And we see the paid actors placed in front of the cameras with the most eyes to perpetuate and proliferate these nonsensical messages of never-ending end times. Every year, every decade, every generation gets its own level of complete and utter propagandistic nonsense, and then beaten over the head with it every single day of the week, year after year after year. And of course, unless you're aware and discerning and able to rise above the clamor, you're going to believe it. You're going to buy into nonsensical ideas such as climate change, pandemics, and government being necessary. You're going to buy into the garbage narratives. You're going to buy into their dialectics and false, divisive ideas and notions and societal engineering. It's a multi-layered game, and then it makes us believe. It pulls us out of ourselves, dissociating and creating the illusion that evil gets a free pass. If evil gets a free pass, good gets a free pass, and it's just a matter of deciding where on that spectrum you want to play this game. Because it's all a game. The more you're attached to anything here, any outcomes, any apparent solidity, the more you'll suffer. So it behooves us to step back more often than not, to sit in the quiet, to let the thoughts just flow, to tap into that sacred silence more often than not. Otherwise, evil gets a free pass.